All right. We are live. We are recording. And we got Nik Lewis, the CFL's all-time leading receptions leader, here with us today. How are you doing, Nik?
I'm great. I'm great,
How's life? How are you doing? How's the
man.
family?
Life is good, man. Life is good. I can't complain. Business is good. Staying busy. Life is good. Just especially after being in BC last year for 9 months.
Is,
To
is
be at
this
home every day is always good. See my daughter, see the family.
It can't
Um,
be good being quarantined like this, though.
well, life in SAS is quarantine, so I don't really see it any different. Like what? The only difference in my life is I don't get to go to up the street here to what's the place?
Leopold's?
Leopold's. That's it. I don't get to go to Leopold's. That's it.
Is that your bar of choice in town?
Huh?
Is that your bar of choice in town? Or your
Yeah, I mean,
establishment of
especially
choice?
especially like neighborhood bar. If we're talking neighborhood bars, we're talking just sitting around here. I definitely choose Leopold's over all the others. Barley Mill has some good wings on Wednesdays, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't see myself going and hanging out to Barley Mill for a drink. It's Leopold's is probably it. And if I go downtown, I really like Fat Bastards, man. I really do.
You mean the Fat Badger?
Fat Badger, Fat
Yeah,
Bastards,
yeah.
Fat Badger,
The
Fat
same thing.
Badger, Fat Bastards. Yeah, the same thing. Close enough to be able to do that. They don't mind. They're getting a free plug anyway out of it. So
Yeah. So I really like hanging out there, man. And I'm a firm believer Victorias don't have alcohol in their drinks, and yeah.
really? Wow.
And
Uh,
the crazy part is they're owned by the same people as Leopold's.
you betcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
even know that.
Really, Charleston? Yeah, no,
Oh,
they're all owned by the Leopold's group, so the great people there. I know Charleston's had one or several nights over at Victoria's Tavern. I've seen them there quite a bit.
hey, they changed the food menu up just for me.
Yeah. So is this your first summer? Is this your first full-time summer here in Saskatchewan, Nik?
No, well, the year I retired, 2018, when I was retired right before that season, and yeah, I went to camp as a guest coach for
That's right.
for Sask, and then I was here most of that. My mom got pancreatic cancer, so I was back and forth to Texas, and but I got to enjoy most of the summer here, and definitely a different place in the summer than it is in the winter.
Yeah. Well, the winter, there's not much going on in the winter. You don't want to get out. That's almost like you're quarantined right there in the winter to be able to do that. But Saskatchewan, the summer is more vibrant. You got to get out. You got to go to the lakes. You get a chance to be able to go and have really see what all Saskatchewan's all about. So yeah, that's good. Good for you. How are you handling COVID, and what do you think about COVID in the CFL? How obviously we got some big news this week with with the shocking announcement that from the commissioner that there's possibly a good chance that the CFL won't happen this year. Nik, what are your thoughts on that? How, if you're playing, but even now that you're not going to be coaching, or you might still could be coaching, what do you think about no CFL season this year?
Well, I seen last night something about they said that Ontario can resume uh, athletic training,
yeah, I seen that.
right?
Yeah.
So for that to start opening back up, I mean, I think it's way too soon to start saying it will or won't happen. Um, the question is, will the owners get this money and try to pocket it all, and or will they pay the players, right?
And that's one of the questions, I think. Charleston, what do you think about that? Have you guys not had any kind of communication from the player reps in regards to where, because I know the commissioner, when he was asked by the House of Commons the other day, his answer was, no, I've not talked to the players. I don't know if the players are going to get paid. He didn't have any answers, and he was in front of the parliament and everybody. So have they not talked to you, Charleston, or anything?
We've been talking with the CFLPA reps of every team. They're in constant meetings and stuff and keeping us involved as players as much as they can. So they've been doing a great job of that. You know, Solly took over this year, so with Solomon Elaminian in there, he's been doing, you know, a great job of keeping everybody informed about what's going on. It is like I said, it's a crazy situation, especially for Ambrosio to go up there and say something like that. But it's actually a true statement because they broke off communication with us for at least a month and a half. So we went about a month and a half without hearing anything from ownership or representatives. So you really gotta kind of tread water lightly, you know, when you're talking about and when they're asked questions like that. But I felt like you got to be prepared. You just got to be prepared for whatever there is to come. I mean, no CFL season does hurt my heart, and I know it hurts all the fans' heart, but you got to do what you got to do. Hopefully they can control this thing. I think that's what's most important is just controlling the sickness.
Man,
right?
I'm sick for you and Bo, man. Like, for you to be 28 sacks from the record, Bo to be 24 sacks for the record. If ever was to have a chance to make a run at it, you know, you would need these 2 full years. And
I need it. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean, you got to commit to a third season now. If you play half a season this year, and then you got to go commit to a third season just to come back and break the record. Like if you play half a season this year, you get 10 sacks. Play the next year, you get 15 sacks. You're 3 sacks from the all-time record. You've got to come back.
Yeah, you don't want to quit there.
And then what are you going to do? You're just going to come back 2 games in, get your 3 sacks, and be like, I'm done.
Peace out.
Right? Like that's the thing. It's like you got to commit to this. So that's what I feel bad for. I feel bad for guys like that that have played a long time. That I hate the word deserves in sports because, you know, sometimes you say, well, this team deserves to win. Well, they didn't do everything perfectly, so how do you say they deserve to win? So, you know, and it's just guys that put it in, and you see them work hard. And I've been fortunate enough to be on both of their teams and to see their work ethic and what they've been through.
Yeah.
Both D2 guys and like myself. And so I just – it hurts to watch and to see this happening.
That actually leads me to something because you said D2 guys. You went to Southern Arkansas?
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't know that, Mr. Investigator.
If anybody wants to know what he's talking about, I pulled up a series of pictures that I found in a peculiar place that I'd never seen before of Nik way back in the day.
7th grade.
In the 7th grade.
9th grade pictures.
7th,
I was
8th,
small, huh?
9th grade pictures when he was tiny Nik.
As a freshman in high school, I was 5'1", 114.
And it wasn't even hard to find him in the picture because he kind of stood out like a sore thumb in the picture. I'll have to show those later so you can understand what I mean. No, but you were inducted into the Hall of Fame in what, 2018?
Yep, 2018 in the Southern Arkansas.
Jordan Babineau.
Yep.
How good is he?
Oh man, he was different. It was so crazy because going to Southern Arkansas, if you remember, guy Fred Perry was leaving Southern Arkansas when I was coming into Southern Arkansas. He was down there with the Falcons till he had a knee injury. Me and Jordan came in at the same time. We were 2 of the freshmen. I feel like we had one of the best recruiting classes. We had like 14 guys that came in and contributed for 3+ years, 3 or 4 years. Me and Jordan traveled as freshmen. He played. I got some run, didn't have a catch as a freshman. So all my records that I broke, I did in 3 years. And we used to sit back there, Division II. Somebody's got to catch the field goals or things like that. So we were back there catching the field goals on the other side of the fence. And we were just sitting back there talking about what we were going to do when we got our opportunity. And, yeah, man, our senior year, he started returning kicks, and he returned 2 kicks in one game, 198, like 102 or 103 in Delta State. And he became an All-American kick returner. I was an All-American punt returner. And, yeah, man, dude at 6'1", 6'2", rangy, running a 4.4, playing DB. He could play safety. He could play corner. And you see in the NFL in his career, man, he could play safety. He could come down, guard the slot.
Yeah,
and he just did so much.
It sounded like he was a tackling machine. Yeah, like
Yeah,
he
dude could
finished with
tackle.
600 tackles.
Yeah, dude could tackle. But there's one time I remember Jeremy Shockey. It was Shockey Shockley, one of the two.
Shocky,
He
yeah.
he
Yep.
he goes up, he makes this big catch over the middle, and as he catches it, he's extended, but he's starting to come down with his shoulders forward, and Babno he just got ran over. He looked like he was about to light him up. He was setting him up, but hey, that's a big boy.
That's what.
I was like, man, Jordan, hey, you better quit that. So no, it was good, man. We have a healthy rivalry, and in college, we battled back and forth.
Yeah,
I told him that's why
I
he should play
saw that.
safety.
Yeah, both of y'all got inducted into the Hall of Fame together, and I was kind of skimming through, kind of see if I saw any noticeable names, and his name kind of stood out to me, and I was like, I kind of remember that name from somewhere. Then when I looked him up, I was like, he played in the NFL for a number of years.
Yeah, 9 years, and
9 years, 600 tackles. He's beasting. Oh, really?
His brother was Jonathan Babineau, played D tackle for the Falcons for like 11 years.
Yes, I know you're talking about.
He went to okay. So get this: in the summers, Jordan would go to Iowa and work out with Iowa's whole program with Drew Tate and all those guys in the summer, and then come back to Southern Arc for the fall.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
So he was getting that Iowa D1 training, coming back to Southern Arc, and you could tell every year Jordan got better. And he's one of those guys that he wasn't out late at night. He wasn't doing anything. He was grinding. He was working, and he had a goal and he had a vision, and he went out and he did that. So props to Jordan. And, they made him wait till I retired to go into the Hall of Fame. They wanted us to go in together since we came into college together. So
awesome.
But it was definitely good to hang out with him, and a lot of our ex-teammates came back for us, and it was a good weekend.
And so with that, you come out into – how did you get into the CFL? Were you your own agent, or what was the steps that you had to be able to come? And then also, what were your thoughts going, okay, I'm going to go to CFL? Did you know much about the league, or did you know much about –
I seen the 95 Grey Cup. I remember Doug Flutie and Jeff Garcia in the 95 Grey Cup, and seeing that it was snow everywhere. I remember just watching that. It was on like Fox Sports or something like that. And that's the only time I'd ever seen anything about Canadian football. But coming out of college, man, I was projected 5th-round pick to the Packers to replace Antonio Chapman to be the returner because I averaged 22 yards of punt return my senior year. And that's where really there was like, look, you come in, be our 3rd or 4th receiver, but you're going to be our starting punt returner. Did a private workout for him and everything, and kind of fell through. Everything kind of happened in my agency right before the draft, so didn't know what I was going to do. I got a call from a Arena 2 football team up in Arkansas, the Arkansas Twisters, and they were in Little Rock. And I was thinking, man, I'm sitting here going, I was supposed to go to the NFL, making hundreds of thousands. Now they want me to go play for $200 a week. I was like, man, that's it. With the disappointment, was like, man, I'm not doing this. And I talked to my mom.
I did it before too.
Yeah, my mom was like, son, you're not done playing. You're going to play for a long time. And so go do what you're supposed to do. And I got on the plane and went to there, and I thought I was going to do a workout. Ended up going through a practice. At the time, I don't know if you remember Flipper Anderson. He used to play receiver in the NFL for a long time.
For the Rams?
I remembered him. So I was like, dude, this Flipper Anderson. And we talked, and I went through the practice. He asked me to – it was like a Tuesday. He asked me to start that weekend. He was like, hey, you can start for us this weekend. Because he would just tell me – they would call playing the huddle. He'd tell me what I'm running, killing everybody, catching touchdowns, doing everything in practice. They're like, man, you can start this weekend. I was like, well, I got to work out for Calgary this weekend. And he was like, oh, well, the head coach here last year, John Jenkins, is now the OC in Calgary. And out of the workout, there was about 150 people in Dallas, and I was the only one to make it out of there. And I truly believe that going to that workout in Arkansas, that Flipper put in a good word for me and, said, hey, John, this guy can play. And him being a receiver as well carries a little bit extra weight. And when I went to the workout, I caught 50 out of 52 passes, and only 2 I didn't catch, I didn't touch. That's one-on-ones and everything, right? So it was like we working. And, so I Calgary called me 3 days before camp. I mean, it was still like a 2-week wait. I went to Montreal camp. Montreal was like, no, we're all 6 foot and over receivers. They had Cope, Kwame Cavill, Thyron Anderson. The only short guy they had was Ben Cahoon.
You not 6 foot?
Yeah. So then I want to know this, though, because I can't find this stat out anywhere. What weight did you come in your first year in the CFL?
197.
197.
Yeah.
And then what? Okay, so
but
now
I got up to 220 in that offseason because it was crazy because as soon as I left college, so I had agents call me the day after my last game, and I didn't think I was going to play pro football. And then these agents called me, and I connected with an agency. They're like, "We guarantee you're getting in, especially with your highlight film, what you're doing. You're going to get into an NFL camp and everything. We want you to come work out." I was in Marion Jones, Tim Montgomery, and all those agencies. So it was a track agency. They were looking to convert to football. So they got a guy, Andre Tucker, out of Arkansas, who he had a couple guys in the NFL defensive players for one for Detroit safety, and one was a safety for the Broncos. And so they're like, okay, we want to go football. So they got a football guy to come in. And yeah, I was like, cool, let's do it. And next thing you know, some things happen in that agency. Andre gets fired 2 weeks for the draft. He was good friends with Alonzo Highsmith, who was the Green Bay Packers scout who I did the private workout with. And because that's how they found me anyway. Alonzo called him scouting somebody else and said, hey, this dude can play at the next level. I've seen him a couple times now. You need to call him and you need to get him as a client. So they were already open to it. He was already feeling it. And then when Andre gets fired from the agency, I heard nothing else from Green Bay after that.
Don't that give you like a feeling sometimes, like, because opportunities just keep falling through and it's nothing that's in your control.
Yep.
But you know what I mean? Like stuff keep falling apart all around you, and then it's nothing that has to do with your ability and what you're doing. It's just random, and it's just by chance that stuff keep happening like that.
In the military, they always say.
And so when I joined that agency, they were like, leave school. Like Jordan stayed in school. He started the semester in school, that spring semester to go. And then he ends up like leaving. But the teacher just gave him all his homework, said you can do it. You don't have to come to class. Just do it online, basically. We'll help you however we can help you. That's what I should have done. I didn't. I just left school, told him I wasn't coming back, moved to Dallas. I worked out 4 or 5 times a week. I had Marion Jones as trainer. I dropped my 40 time from a 4.67 to a 4.54 by the time I was doing all my all my combine stuff. And when I was doing my workouts and things like that, I was running 4.54. But they took me to GNC, man. He put me on, like, he got creatine and all this other stuff. Yeah. And I jacked up to 220. I was like, man, I got to get off this. I mean, I was about 215 running 4.54. I feel like if I was still around 200, I probably could have broke the 4.5 mark. But
so that was your first year in Calgary. You were 215.
No, I was back down to about 197. 197 by the time I went to Calgary.
Okay, yeah. And so your first year in Calgary, you get to deal with a first-year coach that has probably had many concussions in his lifetime, and
over 30.
Yeah. How was it playing for Matt Dunnigan, who'd never coached before in the CFL, who had very limited, but obviously, did you ever hear of him as a previous player? What was it like your first year there playing for a guy that, had very little, lots of playing credentials, but had no coaching credentials whatsoever? And obviously he only lasted 1 year.
Ignorance is bliss. Too. Ignorance is bliss. When you come in the league, like, you're not worried about coaching and coaches. Oh, yeah. All you're doing is trying to make plays to stay here.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I enjoyed Matt. I don't think, he's a hard worker. He's old school. Like, we were having, still to this day, the hardest training camp I ever had. 2 3-hour practices a day, full pads every day.
Oh,
They got fined. We got fined $20,000 because we kept going over to practice times.
oh.
You know, they voted to practice at 8:30 in the morning. He was like, no team wins. Practice at 8:30 in the morning. You should practice at 1:00. He's like, I don't want to get here at 4:30 in the morning. If we practice at 1, I get here at 8, 9. I'm good. So he was, you know, it's just the mindset, right? It was one of those things to where I think when you become a first-year head coach, you shouldn't be head coach and GM,
Mm.
right? That's a
Yeah,
lot on
like
your
you said.
plate, and
Yeah.
for him to do that, but all the respect in the world, man. I tell you what, he grinded his ass off. He did everything that he thought was positive for us to win, and you know, part of it came with he released a lot of veterans. He released Alondra Johnson, Hall of Famer. He
Mm.
released Fred Perry. He released a lot of guys that would have helped us win games. And I mean, but still, that linebacking core that my rookie year was, you know, you're talking John Grace, George White, Brian Clark, and Scott Coe. I mean, you can't really just say you can find 4 better linebackers to go together that were out there just balling like that. And but end of the day, man, I thought that it was maybe a little much. And you know, John Jenkins gets fired, or they asked him to fire Jenkins. You know, part of the way through the season, he didn't want to do it, and you know, Jenkins stepped down because he didn't want Matt to get fired, and so it was a lot of turmoil. But I definitely seen the difference between Huff and Matt. But you know, one of the things is that Matt is he is a competitor,
Yeah.
and he probably had the best arm on our team.
Hmm.
Oh man.
I love
I ain't
I
gonna
love
lie to you. That Matt could he could sling that thing. He can still sling it.
Oh wow.
he was a quarterback for my favorite team, the Argos. So I watched him many years in the Argos. But tough, like you said, that he's got that mentality of he wants to win. He seemed like he'd be a good teammate and doing that. It was just, for the fans, it just seemed like it was more of a maybe a PR or a media move. Why take a guy that's that good on the field and put him in that position to almost to set up the fail when you're doing as a GM and a head coach to do that. But
Oh, of course. I mean,
yeah,
there's so many
You
things that you like as a coach. I mean, even for me switching over from player to running back coach last year, there's such a learning curve. I mean, when you step on the field, knowledge is knowledge.
yeah,
You can help guys, but when you're in there and you're putting the stuff together, and you got to put it together, and you got to be able to teach it, and you got to be able to teach multiple positions and do different things. I mean,
I think what really makes coaching hard is although you're a player or I'm a player that has so much success and you see stuff differently from a younger guy, the hard part is teaching that younger guy to see the field the way I do.
and you can't.
And it's hard. It's
You
difficult
can't.
to get somebody to see stuff the way you see it on the field or
You can't.
process it the way you process it on the field. Because
Because
everybody
you'll
don't
waste so much
process stuff the
time.
same. Yeah,
You just waste so much time because certain guys they'll never be analytical, right?
exactly.
And like last year, my job was to get you to the line of scrimmage. Told our guys 2 things. I taught them: to get to the line of scrimmage and to always play as if you have no talent, because that's the only way you can play as long as you want to play, right? If you're depending on talent to be good, then you won't be there long. But if you can play as if you have no talent and just do what you're supposed to do and understand what they're trying to do, you can play for a long time. And that's one thing we got better at over the course of last year, teaching those guys how to just defensive fronts, right?
Mm.
Over front, under front, recognizing different fronts and recognizing where players lining up and things like that. So that gave them a clue of what to expect. And I had to write it out. I wrote it out, did a PowerPoint presentation exactly where they're probably going to run the ball if they're in this front, this front, and this front. And there's option A and option B. And that was it. So they knew right now going into it, I'm either going here or I'm going here. But if I go to option B before even pressing option A, ain't shit going to be open.
yeah.
Right.
How was last year?
Right?
How was last year? First year for Coach Claybrooks. he's bringing in a different mentality in BC. How was it there? How did you enjoy it? Different from, probably what you saw in Calgary, different from, your playing days. How would you rate the experience of going to BC and kind of what happened there?
I know how I felt. I remember I was watching y'all, and y'all was in the swimming pool doing some kind of pool workout, and we was on the field looking like we out here slaving, and they in the swimming pool chilling.
Clay's a player's coach, man.
Yeah.
Like he said, he doesn't coach effort. When we're on the field, fly around, get better. But when we're not on the field, like, we're all humans. We're all grown men, right? So he gonna respect you, and us as a coaching staff is gonna respect you, one. And you'll be amazed. I tell you this: every week we played, there was at least 4 or 5 guys on the other team that wanted to come to play for us.
Really?
And I'm not talking about the worst guys on the team. They're some of the best guys on each team. Were like, hey, call me this offseason. Or, hey, I was getting text messages from top players in the league. Hey, can you see if they can trade for me? I want to come over there.
Wow. And that's because of the atmosphere he created?
Oh, of course.
There.
Of course. I mean, it's the atmosphere. And I mean, I tell you what, it's hard to win consistently in pro football.
Yeah.
And to see what Calgary does, like me and Charles, we were there when we created it. I was there. We went from 4-14 my rookie year to 12-6 my second year. And then we only had one losing season after that 12-6 season, and that was 2007. And that was in the transition from Higgins to Huff, right? But the thing is, it's very hard to win consistently. And when you don't have top down, it makes it really hard, right? Calgary, everyone is top down. From the president all the way down is on the same accord on how they're going to win games. And, when you can sit in there and you can have meetings and meetings and meetings, and offensively, if you say, look, we're only having 6 busts a game, that just means we're not getting it done.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. That's the biggest thing is, like, at some point people have to get it done. And, you hear they're like, we have too many young coaches. Well, I'll test my knowledge against any coach because I know the game through and through. And Brandon Rutley and John White both said I was the best running back coach they've ever had. And I was a first-year running back coach. So I hadn't played running back since since 8th grade.
Yeah.
Right?
I thought you was a fullback your whole career.
I don't I don't even want to say what your finishing playing weight was, because that could have been. I know there's a guy on the Riders right now, Chad Jeter, who's coming in at 253 as a D lineman. And what was your last playing weight in the CFL?
I don't step on scales. You know what, though?
No, you don't. But that's I
had to make it easier for people.
Well,
it was like playing Madden on rookie my whole career. No, that's one of the things also is, like, people always think I eat a lot. I don't eat that much. I drink a lot, but I don't eat like that. And,
but that's also,
I work out. Like one of the, Romby Bryant, who's a guy who runs tirelessly. He would go through the whole practice and run like no other.
Like crazy motor. Endurance.
Romby Bryant almost quit on one of my workouts with my trainer in Dallas. So, I mean, I ran just as much as every other receiver ran. I blocked when other receivers were taking plays off.
Yeah.
I did everything that everybody else did. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I was in shape.
I think,
being in shape is not a shape.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, a testament to your knowledge of football, to what you learned, and how that if you can come in and play at the shape that you played at for how many years. And, one of the things that I'd always watch is that, throughout the year, you'd always see the Nik Lewis highlight hits, whether that's you cracking down on someone, or your hits, throughout the plays, you're blocking. You were a guy that could do it all, right? And then you'd see your leaping ability when you're going over someone. I think at least once a year you'd be seen hurdling a guy to be able to do that. But throughout your year, if you look at all your stats, very consistent, and you're always finding the spots. As a fan of the CFL, the one thing I could say is that I always see Nik Lewis 2nd and 5. Who they go to? Nik Lewis gets that clutch catch, and always finding the spots to be open. So that's a testament, testament to
and some of that though too is coaching.
Mm.
Like if you look at how they use me in Montreal to compare to Calgary.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, well, you only get the ball in the flat, so you get the ball here. Well, that means I had to earn every yard because it was all yak yards. It wasn't like I got the ball down the field. And that's coaching, right? They were like, well, we just want to put the ball in your hand, so we want to get it to as quick as we can and let you do the work. That's what they would tell me, right? Like if I would much rather run 12-yard digs and 10-yard outs and short corners into the boundary and curl routes and finding stuff. But
that's the kind of stuff you don't see from a lot of receivers these days is yak yards. Like once
Exactly.
they catch the ball, boom, they're down or they're getting hit or they're getting tackled. Like you don't see a lot of receivers catching the ball, navigating through traffic, getting a lot of yak yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Which I can't contest. You are good at that. Real good.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, man. It's like, trust me, I did not tell them, hey, just throw me the ball at 2 yards and let me go do the rest. I'd have much rather had 10 and worked hard enough to get another 5 or 6 than to get it at 2 and I'd work my ass off to get 10.
So I know previous Charleston and you both mentioned his private investigative skills of how now Charleston's coming up on his spare time. He's now finding pictures of you back when you were in grade 7 and 8 and be able to do that. I want to know, is there any juice? This is your chance, Nick, to be able to say something about Charleston that when you guys played together, anything like that you know of, that any kind of stories that people don't know or something where I know a smile and a laugh already, but tell me something about Charleston that when it comes up that you sit there and you laugh at. There's something that, it entertains you when you think about Charleston Hughes.
No, man. Charleston was good, man. He's a good teammate. We always mess with Charleston about a lot of different things, but those are things a part of being a teammate and growing. And I'm gonna let Charleston make it on that one. It's he's part owner. He's part owner of this podcast, and I'm gonna let him make it. And
You're a loyal friend.
We don't want to bring out that picture of him, running track or anything. Where his neck used to be like 16 inches.
I ain't have enough traps. I got traps now to make your neck look shorter.
Well, I'm sure we're going to have to dig that picture for sure.
Hey, so Nick, one thing I always wanted to ask you is where'd you get this alter ego persona with all these nicknames like Geronimo Jones and Nicolo Dime, and can you name them all off for us so Johan knows about them?
Well, it started off with Geronimo Jones.
There you go.
And that was it was always alter egos because I always felt like I was a different player, right, or a different person. And sometimes when we think about insecurities and we think about what we are capable of doing, I didn't think I was capable of doing a lot of the things that I did. And so I created alter egos that were able to go out there and execute, talk trash and be able to hang out and go out there and make the plays and hit people and do things I did throughout my career. So I created Geronimo Jones in college, and they all came from the WWE, right? So you watch these wrestlers as they come through and you see Hulk Hogan or Undertaker or Sting, Junkyard Dog. You see all these wrestlers come out there and they go out there and they put on a show. And that's all it was, to put on a show. And so, I went from Geronimo to Simon Sleepwalker with Higgins because he didn't want me to talk. I remember I told Shannon Garrett, I said, I'm going to make you look so bad right in this game, you're going to want to retire. He quit in the third quarter, by the way. 2 touchdowns, and he got up after the second touchdown, laid back down, holding his hamstring, but he played the next week in the playoff game. And I since then I've apologized to Shannon for even saying that because I understand as a young guy I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, that's what it was. And I remember Higgins came up beside me for the game. He put his arm around me. He goes, "Hey, young man, you know you put a lot of pressure on yourself." I said, "Well, you just make sure you give me the ball. That's it." And that's how I felt, because it was like, if dealing with pressure is easy for me, right? So it was one of those things. Let's get this done. So you just go through these alter egos, and then through the courses of the career, different things happen. You know, I changed my name to Han Slow Mo,
When was that?
because I got a little slower and a little thicker, and what I'm saying. So I went to Han Slow Mo, and started making those slow moves and still make people miss. And so I have a bunch of Nicolo dimes. Is one. Master Unique is another one. I finished my last year with Dragon Foot.
Dragon.
Right?
Cause that ankle.
Yeah, we just how you get to you keep your feet in bounds. So I was Dragon Foot. So it was it was good.
Speaking of that injury though, how has it still been after football? Now I know you dealt with that ankle injury because you broke your tib or fib?
I broke my fibula.
Yeah, okay.
But the fibula break wasn't the hard part. It was I tore every ligament in my ankle and the ligament that runs through your knee to your ankle. And at 31 years old, they thought I would never play the game again. Right? Doctor said I wouldn't jog for 4 months. They said that all this stuff was impossible and it's not going to help. You're going to be in a cast for 6 weeks. Then you got to go to a walking boot 4 weeks. I was out of the cast in 13 days. I was out of the walking boot in 6 weeks. I was jogging. I was in spin class when they didn't know about it. I told them, I said, man, I just can't stand up on the bike really good right now. But the spin that I was doing, the jogging, I was getting grassing on my ankle. I was getting, acupuncture. I would go in because Mike wouldn't let me run or jog on the treadmill in the hot tub. So I'd wait for y'all to go to practice, and then I go get on the treadmill, and I'm running. And then, even when I told them 2 weeks for the Western Final in 13, I said, man, look, I'm going to be ready to play. I'd had a dream at some point. I don't remember exactly when, but I had a dream. I was playing in the Western Final against SAS. And I just knew. And, that I worked. And then 2 weeks for that, I went to the doctor. Doctor says, look, I'll let you try whatever you think's going to work. It's not going to happen. It's impossible. And he called the training staff and said, look, Nik can work out. It's impossible. He just has this in his head, so I'm going to let him do it. And so when I went to the coaches, especially the last game of the season that year, you remember, Charleston, Marquay gets a high ankle sprain. Micah Johnson tears ACL. Demonte Bolden tears his MCL.
Yeah.
Right. We had a bunch of injuries in the last game that didn't even matter, didn't even mean anything to us. So I was like, I'm going to put myself in position to be on the field. And
mind over matter.
I worked and I worked and I worked. And I walked in. It was the Thursday before the Sunday game. I walk in the doctor's office. He asked me to do a bunch of things. I did them. He started laughing. He goes, I don't know how this is even possible. I don't know what you did. He goes, but you can play. Because when I told Huff, he was like, you can't play. So Huff goes and talks to the training staff. They're like, no, he cleared him. And he was like, wow. Well, they kept telling us it's impossible. Huff's like, well, we're going to win this game, so you can play in the Grey Cup next week. So I went out and I did scout team that day. I don't know if you remember. I went out and played scout team that day. It was a day 3. I believe. No, it was day 2. But I went out and did scout team for the next 2 days. And, next thing you know, here we go. 6 turnovers and we lose to SAS.
That's 100%. That's 100% mind over matter.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where, like,
setting your goals.
What separates, mentally strong people from people that are mentally, tough like that. where you can have one person that's a doctor, somebody that you trust, tell you that, hey, you shouldn't be doing this because you may get injured again from this. But for somebody who physically knows their own body and mentally knows themselves, like, you know when you're in pain, you know when you're hurt. So no matter what the doctor tells you, you consider you consider the advice from him, you consider what he says, and then you reevaluate on your own about how you feel and where you are on a scale, right?
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing. It was like, I knew my leg was strong because, one, the fibula is only 15% weight bearing, and two, I had a metal pipe in it, right? So I was like, it's gonna be strong. To me, it was just having the ligaments heal up enough so that I could really run with that force and do that things without tearing them again. And I was like, man, I don't run that fast. I said, I tell you one thing, I can get open, I can catch the ball, I can keep the chains moving. And in that game, that's what we needed. We had 3 plays over 40 yards that resulted in fumbles. And even if we get field goals right there, we're going in the fourth quarter, tie game.
Right.
Right. So it's a huge, huge difference maker in the game. But that's the way it is. That's the way life is sometimes. But I feel like once you get to the professional level, you've overcame so much in your life anyway. It's just another hurdle.
Yeah, you're not going to let that stop you. No, I know. With one thing that you mentioned earlier, Nik, is that you did a little bit of trash talking with that one gentleman and be able to do that. Were you known in college as a trash talker? Where did this come from that all of a sudden you get to Canada, for some reason, TSN would pick up all the words you'd be saying on the field, and they would sit there. they would sit there.
WWE. Hey, you got to take the whole persona, man. You can't just take part of it. So, you can't play me unless you do me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. When I was in college, man, I used to put kids in the hospital because we ran the option and with one receiver. And if that safety thought he was gonna come downhill and tee off on that running back, whoa. It's crack. I used to look at him running down. He got his eyes on the running back the whole way, just looking.
Yeah.
Good night.
I think that kind of attitude is what made us so dominant in Calgary for so many years that we were there. I think you were there for what, 11?
11, yeah.
You were there for 11. I was there for 10, but we were practically there together for our entire big portion of our careers. But having that edge and seeing other younger players come onto the team and develop that same edge, around us, because we used to have battles at practice every single day.
Yeah.
And we're trash talking each other. And then, I end up coming to a team like Sask, and that wasn't the same edge, but I still had the same edge where I step onto the field and I'm at practice trash talking the OC, the offensive line coach, the running back coach, all the other coaches and players on the field, and I'm just running around just, nonstop talking until the offense coordinator say, Charleston, just be quiet.
Yeah, and that's the way it was when I got to Montreal. I remember, you can ask Mike Edom, I caught a pass up the seam, or he overthrew me. I ran up the seam, he overthrew me. Mike was like, oh, I'd have picked that. I said, no, you wouldn't. And somehow, a couple plays later, same thing. I caught it. I turned around. I was like, I told you you'll never get this. I'm looking at you and I'm going off you and all this other stuff. And everybody's looking at me like, are you mad at him? I said, no, we just competing. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So, when me and Cope over here and Joff, and you got Charleston and Simp and all those guys, and Dwight Anderson over there always going to be chirping.
Yeah, and BB and Brandon Brown.
BB, we used to go at it and see those real competitive. Like if you watch the Jordan documentary,
yep,
The Last Dance, and you watch how the Olympic team played against each other. That's how our practices were.
That's how our
practices were full-fledged, borderline. It was going to be a riot, and people took it so personal and so serious. If you didn't show up, everybody got better, right? Everybody, because this was your livelihood. We competed. I remember the time me and Brandon Isaac got into a fight. because he kept grabbing me. And I was open for a touchdown. He grabbed the back of my and then I swung at him and hit him, and Huff was standing right there. Huff jumped out of the way. And he was like, Nick, what's wrong with you? And like, man, it was we had some battles, that 2008 year, they would match DBs up according to who's who, right? And every day 3 for a no huddle, it was a live no huddle. So if you scored, you scored. If you got an interception on first play, it's over. So whatever happened, it was a live no huddle situation at the end of the game. And they give a scenario, and every day 3, it was me and Brandon Browner, because they put him against the most physical guy on the other team. So he got used to guarding me, and man, his arms are so long, but he always used to grab me in my face mask. I make a move, his hands just swipe my face mask, and we would always be going at it. And it was great competition. It was great feeling, but yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes it was even more intense than games.
Yeah, and then you look at that Jordan documentary. It's unbelievable to think about how the stature of those guys, of a Larry Bird, of a Magic Johnson, David Robinson, Chris Mullen. You have all these guys who are, Charles Barkley, and then you hear the way that Jordan, how competitive he got in those practices. He wanted to go against Magic, and Magic coming back and chirping him. So it's the chirping does make you better, I guess, Nik?
Yeah. But even with Jordan, you hear how Phil would say it would start to be like the 1s versus the 2s. And then the 1s would be up like 6-1, 6-2. Jordan, you're on the 2s team. And they would come back and beat the 1s.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like that competitive nature, like, I don't care what the score is.
Yeah.
As long as you give me time, we can make this happen.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody's worried. Nobody's really worried. Like, you look around, and like me back in the day, I was like, if I knew our defense needed to stop, man, you put Charleston, Biscuit, Tom Johnson, whoever else on the front line with Simp at linebacker, Juwan Armour at linebacker, Keon or Shannon James at linebacker. You know what I'm saying? Malik Jackson. Malik, one of the fastest guys on the field. Deron Mayo was the fastest guy on the field at one point. You know what I'm saying? So you give me these guys on defense, like, oh, we got this.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of us showing up and doing it, because I always felt like we were prepared for the moments.
Yeah.
That was the best part. You're prepared for the moment because you've already felt like you competed against the best every day at practice.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, if they looked at us like Smitty and Keon and all those guys, they look at us. You got me, Cope, and Rambo, or me, Rambo, and Romby, or Marquay and Thelwell and all Brett Ralph, like, so, and Joffrey and Cornish.
Yeah.
Like, they feel like they're going against the best every week too. Like, if we can guard these dudes every day, we should be able to go in the game and feel confident that we can win this game.
Top. Yeah. Yeah. And with that,
right?
do you have any other, I guess not regrets about your career, but did you ever maybe think back and say, man, it would have been nice to play in the Riders, and be able to have that, or any other things that you think about that you're like, man, I wish I would have done this, or it could have been like this, or is there any thought like that when you're all done now and you're sitting back?
I think living here now, like, I think when you play, you think this is the worst place on earth, because not just because. Think about this. When you come in town, you come in the night for a game.
Yep.
All you do when you get here, there's nothing really close unless you take a cab to Earl's. But if you go to the mall, if you walk to the mall right up the street, what is there? There's all homeless people. There's a lot of people. Like, it doesn't look like anything. Like, where am I at? It's flat. I don't see nothing around me. This is supposed to be downtown. There's nothing really down here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we're talking before Victoria's Tavern was down there.
Yeah.
For real.
Well, I remember I used to go to O'Hanlon's or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, at least in Winnipeg, they had Polo Park.
Hey, we used to get jacked up for that deli too. Italian Star Deli.
Yeah.
See, we used to walk down there, grab a sandwich. That was the only place we knew of, is walk to the Italian Star Deli, grab a sandwich, walk back to your hotel.
But then
how was living here? It's different. So, I mean,
How was it when you won?
I definitely say I wouldn't. I'm not. I wouldn't say I wish I would have played for the Riders, but now I get a lot of love from Rider fans, and I
Yeah.
enjoy it because they respect what I did,
Yeah.
and it's a mutual respect type of thing, and I respect them as being great fans of the CFL. But I mean, if it would have happened, then it would have been it'd have been a great ride because I would have been out there talking all kinds of trash, and I'd have had them behind me 100%. And
Yeah.
I honestly felt like, yeah, we would have took it to a whole new level.
Yeah. Is there any memory that you have? One memory of the old Taylor Field that you kind of just sit back and smile and
Oh, of course.
laugh? Yeah.
My first catch, my first touchdown, my first game came in Taylor Field, and the way I set it up was, and my first celebration was the Ric Flair. So everybody got on that kind of late. I caught an out route for a touchdown, and I ran to the goalpost. I hit the goalpost like it was the turnbuckle, and I came out with the steps. Woo! First ever celebration right there at Taylor Field. Right,
Nice.
so I finished that game with 3 catches and a touchdown, and I was on my way. And my first catch, I remember I caught an out route and broke a couple tackles, ran a dude over at the end of it, got up talking trash, and yeah, it was like, I'm here. You got to see me now. So
That's too funny.
that was cool. And then my last game was in the new stadium,
Oh yeah.
right, Mosaic.
Yeah.
Right, so and that was on the same day they tore down Taylor Field.
Yeah.
Right, how cool is that?
Yeah.
They tore down the field that I played my first ever CFL game in on the day I played my last CFL game in the new stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a great bookend to an
Yeah.
unbelievable career for you.
Yeah, that's where it started and where it finished.
You won Rookie of the Year that year too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember your Rookie of the Year speech?
I didn't write one.
You just went up there and said, "See you later. Thank you."
No, I went up there. I talked for a minute. I think Dunnigan. I think the coaching staff. I think my mom, my family. I didn't stay up there long. It was something that I was appreciative of the moment. But at the time, I was probably about seven beers in. They had some beers in the back. I'm gonna tell you, the funny story is that. So you know how they give you everything. You got to get suited. They give you everything. You gotta go get fitted.
Yeah.
Well, they gave me everything but socks, and I had on some white socks, and my short and my pants didn't cover everything, right? So they was like, I was a little futuristic in the way they wear them now. So when I walk up the steps, I tried to straight leg up the steps so nobody could see my white socks. And I had really Sharpie colored the top of my white socks so they were kind of black.
You did not, did you?
So that nobody could tell that I had on white socks under this tuxedo or whatever was his suit. And yeah,
they're like, look at this rookie going on stage.
I gotta see if we can find video clips of that.
Yeah, it was good. I sat at the table with Keith Stokes and his mom, and he won Special Player of the Year.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I remember Baron Miles went up there because he won the Humanitarian of the Year, and Baron Miles gave a speech that was about 25 minutes long, and they kept cutting music on, they kept flashing the light, they kept doing everything, and Baron was like, "Look, y'all not gonna stop me from saying this. I done all this. I'm about to say what I gotta say."
Yeah,
like, man, Baron, they not gonna let you win no more. I was like, he could take my extra 3 minutes because I was on and off quick.
Yeah, let me get mine's off. That is too funny. All right, I think I got one more question for you. Then we could probably get to wrapping it up after that. But last year, you were fined for a comment that you said on Twitter regarding the officiating of multiple games last year, which I personally think that multiple games last year were somewhat not officiated correctly. I won't say bad. I'll just say weren't officiated correctly. And, it was a rough season, I think, for referees last year. And I've heard people before make statements that why don't referees get fined when they make bad decisions or bad choices on the field like that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the refs definitely play a huge part in the outcome. As a player and as a coach, I've always said, like if you watch boxing or UFC, the refs are they're going to be either tight, not let you hold, or they're going to let you hold, right? As long as you're consistent throughout the game, if you're saying, look, this little contact, we're calling it, call it like that the whole way through. I don't care what time of the game it is. If you're going to let stuff go, let it go all the way through. I don't care what time of the game it is. But just be consistent so that us as players understand how we need to play. Just like in baseball with strike zone. If a ref's going to call a tight strike zone, you know it from the first. So you got to you got to throw pitches to the tight strike zone.
Yeah.
So you don't want him to just open it up in the ninth inning where now strikes that haven't been strikes all game are going to be strikes. No, call it the same way all the way through.
Be consistent.
And that's where refs I don't want to decide the game at the end, so I don't throw a flag. Or I don't want to decide the game at the end, so I throw a flag. Like, no, do what you was going to do. Call it the way you see it the whole way through. Be consistent. Yeah. But last year, to give context to the story, Toronto was playing a game, and it was a doubleheader. SAS had the second game against Hamilton. I don't remember who Toronto was playing, but it was a 2nd and 25, and Toronto throws Corey throws the challenge flag right before the play starts. Refs don't see it. The play goes through, ends up 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, something like that. And right before as the punt team's running on the field, referees stop the game and say, the booth saw the challenge flag thrown, so we're going to uphold the challenge. Long story short, they get a first down because of pass interference. The very next game, the Riders are playing Hamilton. End of the game, game's on the line. Cody Fajardo scrambles to the left, ends up scoring a touchdown, the game-winning touchdown. But right before the play, you see Steinhauer running down the sideline, calling timeout.
Yeah, I remember that game. Yep.
They didn't uphold that, and I went on Twitter and I said at CFL. So I added them at CFL. It wasn't like I was making some offhand comment. At CFL. What's the difference between the Toronto game and the SAS game? As a coach, I feel like we need to know what we need to do in that situation. Didn't say the referees did it wrong in any aspect. Didn't say one was wrong, one was right. I just said, what do we need to do? And they fined me $1,000 because the fans came out and said, oh, the refs suck, and all this other stuff. And Brosey said, I incited that. And I was like, so I said, what? I said, one, Randy, because I messaged him. I said, Randy, what do you mean I incited it? I didn't incite that. I said, how can I as a player or a coach interact with fans, but then you want me to interact with them, but at the same time, if they go off and say the players, the refs suck, now you're saying I created that situation.
Yeah.
You can't interact with people, and then people go off and say something bad, and now it's on you.
Yeah.
So you can't have it both ways, right? So that's why I pretty much got off Twitter last year, because I'm like, you're putting other things in, and he's like, well, you as a coach have a higher standard, and you should just email the league and ask those questions. And I was like, Randy, this is the way I've always done it as a player. Now as a coach, I mean, I'm being very transparent with you. I'm not trying to do anything to hurt the league. Like, why would I go out there and just intentionally? If I want to do it like that, I'm like, I could have stated that a whole different way. I didn't have to at you, right? I brought attention to it, and then they found me like over a week later. It wasn't even like that week, right? It's the refs that call and say, oh, well, Nik started this because he did this and asked this, and he brought attention to it, and then now, well, do your job.
We're we're gonna start a GoFundMe page so you can get your $1,000
I
back.
need that 1,000 back. That hurt. I especially when you see what I was making last year. I ain't made that since my rookie year.
So then now, Nik, is there anything now? I see you got to be back on Twitter, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. What?
I try to wait till the sports going on, and I like to live tweet games and do some things. And
yeah,
maybe we can do like a Lulu Lounge live for games when they come back.
Hopefully,
and you can supply some of the beers and stuff like that. We get us a Lulu Lounge live party going on. Maybe we get some fans involved and just do a live session. So we just go live through the game and not just tweet it.
I like that idea. You can count on me for the beers and to be able to help out with that. And is there anything now, Nik, that you want to be able to promote? I know that I think you got your own podcast going right now. Anything that you want to be able to promote and plug? And
yeah, man, I got the Lulu Logic podcast.
Yeah, pardon me.
I got that going, huh?
You have pardon me your podcast.
The Lulu Logic podcast,
okay.
LEWLOGIC. I got that. I got about 20 episodes out, and I took some time off to try to get the technical difficulties together, and then we'll be coming back live with that here in the next week. And I'm doing that, man. I got so much on the go, ready to launch a media company.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, we really
it's all coming. I partnered with Charleston this offseason, and we're doing some anti-bullying stuff and going to schools, playing basketball. So I try to stay connected. Got a great app coming out soon called Chip In, Incentivized Giving, that's going to help so many people, especially in today's time. It's going to give us the opportunity to create the platform to help a lot of people out. And that's what it's about. It's about when you think about what you do here, you want to leave a legacy and you want to leave something better than what you have it, right?
Well said. Yeah.
You're just borrowing this vehicle, and I'm borrowing this platform. And I thank everyone for allowing me to be there. But I truly want to do something great with it and be able to help and infect people with happiness, but affect people life in a better way while I'm here and while I have the opportunity to do so. So, and I've been doing my public speaking and things like that. So we'll continue to move forward, and hopefully have you two guys on board with the boomerang business soon.
Boomerang. Tell them about the boomerang. The one in Australia that you throw?
It's just like a boomerang, man. You give people savings, man, and it comes back to you, right? You get the joy for it. So, no, it's one of those things, man. It's a platform where we're going to help people save money. Like everybody right now is looking for ways to save money.
Yeah.
If you know a company that their people travel, if you can help them save up to 35% on all their travel, you just help them greatly, right?
Yep.
You're saving jobs. You're doing things for people. For Charleston, like flag football teams and leagues and AAU and, different sports that travel. Man, you're going to have a great opportunity to help these teams and help these people save money. That's what we're about, is helping people save money so they can live an affordable life. And, for the people that still have money, they'll be able to take an extra trip off their savings.
There you go.
Who wouldn't love that?
Yeah, well, we appreciate all your time, Nik. It's always good. If there's two people I could go on and listen to all day, I think it's you guys right now and your stories, and be able to do that. But I really appreciate your time to be able to come out and be our first guest. You're the number one guest so far that we've had, and our
appreciate it
on the show.
Since we plug in the Always Bet on You clothing line, there it is. Always Bet on You.
Always Bet on You, and you can go online to be able to on your. Where do we find that?
Yeah. I'll send you the website so you can link it up to this.
Good. Yeah, please do.
We'll definitely do that. Thanks, Nik, for doing this. I'll let you do one more thing before we go off. Go ahead and say one phrase to your mom for Mother's Day.
Hey.
One thing that you're proud of her about, because Mother's Day is
Mom,
coming.
I love you. You're a great warrior. You fought through it all. And, I'm just glad that I'm able to be here through the guidance of my mother, my stepmother, my grandmother, the mother of my kid. And there's so many women out there that need to understand their value and recapture that. And so continue to be strong. And yeah, we love you, man. And to everybody, there will never be a better you than you. So don't worry about being somebody else. Just go be the best you.
Amen to that. Right
Yeah,
on.
man. So when me and Johan started this Better with Age podcast, man, the one thing that I will say to you and the rest of the world is there are many things that get better with age. But the one thing that's most important about that is friendships. So you being
Through
one of
life.
my friends, thank you.
All right.
Indeed, brother.
Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll get back to you soon, and it's good seeing you guys. Thanks, and happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Thanks.
Indeed.